This is about passing parameters and anonymous classes, passing parameters into a constructor, that is. And basically what happens is they're just passed straight through in exactly the way you'd expect, really, straight from the constructor of the anonymous class straight to the anonymous class's superclass, as it were, in a fairly obvious way. But just to illustrate it, here we got an example here. This is class top here, and in it we've got this other class in 1. And now I look at this, most of this need not actually be public. But never mind, I've made it public, it doesn't matter. And what we've got here is this method here inside of in1, and it's got a final double there, and this local class here, which it's got this method doIt in it, and all that does is print out A and the value of that double. And you can do that because of course that's final, so it's got access to that. So straight away we know that the constructor for A is going to require that double be passed in a val, stored in a val $i, in this case, a variable local to a variable member of class A, in the usual way. And now if we look at class B, that extends A, and so obviously it's going to need, when it calls the superclass to call the constructor of that, it's going to need to pass that double in as well. So its constructor is also going to need to have that passed in. So besides that integer, it's also going to require that double to be passed in, so that it can pass it on to the constructor for A. And this version of doIt is just calls that, which prints out B, and then it calls the superclass's version of doIt, which will be there. And now inside this, still inside this method, we finally do something. We construct this class, which is a anonymous subclass of B, and that constructor needs a parameter, so we've got to pass it in, and there it is, it's being passed in. So that'll go into the constructor for the anonymous class, which will just immediately pass it on to the constructor for B using super. And its version of doIt just prints out anonymous and calls the superclass version of doIt, which will be there. And then we actually, after constructing that anonymous class, we call doIt, call that actual method there. And this method main, it just basically constructs an appropriate version of the inner class and calls that method, passing in a double parameter as 43.0. So obviously that's going to print out a non, and then B, and then A, and 43.0. And that's what it does if you run it. Okay, so just to make it clear, these are the signatures for the various constructors. So we've got this constructor A, and that's the first A we've got there. The constructor there is going to have to include a reference to the enclosing instance, obviously, which will be a reference to top $in1, and it's going to need a double as well, so it can put it out there. And B is similarly going to need a reference to the enclosing instance, and it's going to take an integer, that integer there, and the double so that it can pass it on to the constructor for A. And this down here, this anonymous class, its constructor is going to look like that, and it's going to take a reference to the enclosing instance as usual, and then it's going to take that that integer there, so it can pass it on to the constructor of B, and it's going to have the double as well, because the B's constructor also needs that double. And that's fairly obvious. That's what it does. And just to, I don't think I've actually mentioned this, but the parameter order. This is when you lift the hood up, as it were, and look underneath the hood. This is what's going on. The parameter order is, first of all, your enclosing instance, if any is required, is passed in. Then any declared parameters that are actually in the ordinary declaration in the code. And then finally, any var dollar parameters that you require, those are passed in last. So it goes in that order. And that's about it.